So tonight we have Mike Festa from makefield.org. So he actually did a TED Talk about 2 weeks ago. So we're definitely in for like a very experienced speaker. So he also heads up the Wayfair Next project. So if you're not familiar with Wayfair, it's an e-commerce website. So they sell things like basically furniture, anything for your home. They sell it. They sell so many different things that their CEO doesn't even know like the catalog of things that they sell. So it's a pretty awesome website, wayfair.com. However, he's not here to represent them tonight. He's actually here to do makefield.org. And I would also like to thank the Brookline Interactive Group for hosting us tonight. This is the public VR lab also. And to introduce that, I would like to introduce Kathy Bisbee.
Thanks. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Great. So I'm Kathy Bisbee. I'm the Executive Director of Brookline Interactive Group. How many of you have heard of us before? Awesome. How many of you have heard of the Public VR Lab? Some of you. How many of you are Meetup members for the Public VR Lab? And are you also BostonVR members? Yeah, okay. So that's one of the reasons we decided to do a collaboration for the December meetup, because we only do our meetups quarterly. They're very much focused on public interest related, virtual reality related technologies, instead of saying the whole slew of everything. That's kind of what we're calling it. And we are a collaborative effort, so we really want to invite you to join us. We are makers and filmmakers and creators here, and we're sort of the next iteration of public access television. And that's why we are bringing public accessibility and training programs and local content into the VR and AR space. So we have a couple of really exciting things coming up. I'm going to show you guys a video. It's really short, and it's our first iteration of that, so probably next time it'll be even more awesome. But Aaron did a great job putting it together. But a couple of things just to tell you guys about before we show that. We do free public VR demos every Wednesday from 5 to 8 and every Friday from 2 to 3:30. We've been doing that since May 4th of this year. And so we are getting lots of interesting people just walking the door. We also have the Museum of Bad Art here, so we're one of 2 locations anywhere, the other one's Somerville. So we get random people coming in, and then they're like, oh, you could do VR here? And so we've also been out. We did our first event 2 weeks ago at the Senior Center in Brookline, which was so cool. I personally love watching seniors who have really limited mobility throw sticks at a robot dog and pet it. They just get so excited, and it makes them so happy. And so I'm really excited about those kinds of use cases for VR and AR as well. We're also going to be starting at the Teen Center with middle school kids in January, which is going to be really exciting. We're going to be doing some work in partnership with the local housing projects for affordable and low-income housing. And we are working with a project that's in beta right now that is a geolocation. It's kind of like geolocation storytelling. So it's like geocaching meets Snapchat, and it's in AR, and it's really cool. And we're going to be the first nonprofit, I think, anywhere that's going to be doing a whole bunch of story content into that. And one of the things that we're doing is all the high school students at Brookline High School, there's 500 of them graduating seniors this year. They'll each be able to create a story, and they'll be able to leave it in augmented reality for anyone to see forever and ever. And then we're hoping that we can get other alumni to come in and leave their stories as well that people can then check out with this app. So stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be really cool. And then we started the VR Academy in September, and so we are partnering with the high school on that and their entrepreneurial program. And the kids have learned 360 filmmaking, and so they're making a 360 representation of the entire high school, which is really great because we have a new high school that the community is talking about. So we're really excited to take a real use case for public interest, VR and 360, and have the community be able to have a dialogue while watching and walking through those spaces themselves. So we're hoping that's going to be really meaningful for the community. We're also doing an art assessment project here in Brookline, where we're doing 360 video of all of the public art projects, and then we're going to be mapping them as assets on the web, and people are going to be able to do 360 video of all the community's art projects. So those are just to give you an idea of some of the kinds of things we tend to work on. We're just jumping into volumetric VR in the spring. We're starting to teach Unity and Symmetry classes here, which we're really excited about, thanks to Amadeo. And then we're doing 360 filmmaking and 360 storytelling classes. So we'll be doing digital storytelling in 360 and VR as well. And as you guys know, yes, there's a lot of similarities to storytelling. from the film world into the VR world, but it's also a whole new different medium. I was really excited. How many of you saw that Dear Angelica is coming? Have anybody seen that? Check it out. It's Oculus Story Studio, and they're making the stories natively in VR, and it's one of the first projects like that. So we're really excited to see that coming. So, and we're also going to have a big hackathon in the spring if you're interested in being involved. It's a collaboration with BostonVR and us, and we're going to brainstorm tomorrow what the date will be, but it'll probably be in April. It's going to be education content focused. So with that note,
the Public VR Lab is the next iteration of participatory community media using VR, 360, AR, and other interactive tools to bring the long tradition of public access media and media arts into the VR space. The lab is a collaboration between Brookline Interactive Group and Northampton Community Television to facilitate discussion and activities to support increased hyperlocal content creation, public education, collaboration, and to promote digital inclusion with these new content creation and storytelling spaces. What is VR? Well, VR is virtual reality, and it can mean anything from 360-degree video to volumetric virtual reality to augmented reality. Some examples of that might be the HoloLens. In virtual reality, you could actually move through time and space and have an experience on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, on the moon, or even somewhere here in our community of Brookline. And 360 video allows you to take a 360-degree view of everything all around you, so you can look up and down and all around you. This presents new challenges with the way that we tell stories and the way that viewers see stories and hear stories in this new medium. At the Public VR Lab, we're here to help you tell your stories in virtual reality, augmented reality, and 360 video. Since May 4th, 2006, the lab has hosted free weekly public demos of VR experiences via the HTC Vive headset and controllers, hosted public interactive special events, booths, presented at conferences, worked with library schools and senior centers, and provided educational content for the public around VR-related technologies. The lab hosts VR/AR hackathons, regular meetups, and launched a new initiative in 2016 to fund community production grants to independent producers. The lab has developed a VR Academy with Brookline High School's entrepreneurial program and with community partners, providing classes and cohort-intense project-based learning in 360 video, cinematography, photography, programming, graphic design, animation gaming, and VR content creation. The Public VR Lab is all about helping you tell your stories.
I'm going to post this to the Public VR Lab website and meetup group, and maybe Boston VR could share it out as well. If you guys know folks that we should be partnering with in education, in business, in government, please send them to us, because we really want this to be a collaborative effort, and we're open to working with anybody, or developers. If you guys want to come in and try any of your content we also got a PlayStation 4 now, and we're probably going to get an Oculus. So let me know what your needs are too as developers, so that we can help support you and help it grow, your projects grow here in Brookline at the lab. So thank you so much. Enjoy.
Once again, thanks Kathy for hosting us tonight. I really appreciate it, and to not hold up the show any further, hand it over to Mike Festa from makefield.org.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming out on such a cold night. This is a new venue for me, but I like it. It feels very similar to the TED Talk like setup. I got a rectangular carpet instead of a circle, but I prefer this type of format where I don't have to be as scripted and I can kind of talk into more detail. So I'm actually still using the same slides for my TED Talk, so if you saw that already, I apologize, but if you haven't, it's going to be available in an edited online version probably in the next week or two. They're working hard to get all 84 talks condensed into, you know, a nice viewable piece with all the audience shots and everything. Anyway, so tonight I'm here to talk about makefield.org. It's a new initiative that I've been kind of wanting to do for a long time. I mean, really since I was a kid. I used to walk home from school and think like, oh, I wish I had a 3D model of, you know, this house with this fire hydrant, or all kinds of random things. And so I feel like today that there's a convergence of technology that really enables us to start capturing the world in rich 3D, and then of course viewing it in VR. So that's essentially what we're going to be talking about. Let's see how this works. Yeah, so in my talk I just kind of mentioned how I was an early supporter for the Rift. I've been proud to be with this organization, with BostonVR, for I don't even know how many years. Like, I wasn't here for the first meetup, which must have been, I'm guessing, 4 years ago. But I think it's been 3 years now, and it's great to see the community kind of grow and people get more involved and familiar with the technology. And a lot of you know me for my work at Wayfair. Wayfair is a furniture store. We sell things online only, and it's an interesting use case, I think, for VR because, when you're thinking about a customer buying something online and you're buying a big, thing for your home, you really want to be confident about that purchase. And there's a lot of design and inspiration that goes into how you want to design your space, and you want to personalize it. So if you just go to the store and you're buying the same stuff that everybody's buying, like, you're not going to have as much, freedom of expression and individuality that people generally like in their home goods purchases. So we have over 7 million products, and one of our, big challenges is trying to create 3D versions of all these products. And so my team, the Wayfair Next team, has been investigating photogrammetry, and I think it's probably a year ago, maybe 14 months ago, that I first even heard of this term. And it's been around for a few years, but it's still relatively new. Essentially, the concept is you take photos of a product or a thing or person or environment, and software is able to identify where the camera angles were, or the positions were. And from that camera information, essentially just figure out where the points are in three-dimensional space. So conceptually, if you think of like two photographs, or even just the way our eyes work with parallax, things that are further apart in two different images, the pixels are going to move like less, and the things that are closer, the pixels are going to move more. So from that information and enough photos, we can basically create a really highly detailed 3D product or 3D environment. And I think there's a lot of promise, but yet it's not like a perfect magic bullet. There's still a lot of caveats and gotchas with photogrammetry, and our team's excited to be kind of working on the cutting edge and coming up with new ways to solve interesting problems. So that's kind of a background on where some of these ideas for Makefield came from. And I essentially want to take the tools that we're building in photogrammetry and democratize those to everybody, so everybody can take their phone and turn it into a 3D scanner. Or as Tango and other sensors come out and HoloLens comes out, people are going to be scanning and recording all kinds of 3D data. This is an example of a drone that I flew around a bandstand near my house in Wakefield. And so if you didn't get the play on words, Makefield is actually Wakefield. It's just, I'm digitizing Wakefield, and I thought Makefield was a fun name to call the project. But I really want to open this up to everybody. So the goal is, I'm having fun doing this stuff, but I feel like it's useless if I just keep it to myself. I want to allow everybody to kind of benefit from what I'm doing. So these blue rectangles in the picture is Agisoft PhotoScan. It's one of the most popular and common photogrammetry packages. Basically, each one of those rectangles is a picture, or represents a camera angle. And the cool thing about Agisoft and some of these others like Autodesk's 123 Catch, 123D Catch, or Remake, is that you can just upload pictures. You don't have to say, I took this picture here and I took this picture there. It automatically computes that information and figures out where all those camera alignments are. And so that's really fascinating, I think. It's generally fast. Like, it can produce like a nice 3D model, depending on the complexity, in less than an hour on average. And so this is another interesting example, I think, of photogrammetry and how people are doing 3D reconstruction to benefit the public. So sadly, back in Iraq, 2015, I believe, the city of Mosul was invaded by ISIS, and they came in and destroyed the museum because that's what they do, I guess. They didn't want any historical recreations or statues, and they went in there with sledgehammers and destroyed everything. So this was obviously a tragedy. However, it's an opportunity for interesting, new technology and researchers to kind of show, hey, the past isn't necessarily lost. So because this was a public museum and tourists would come in, frequently and take pictures, there was a lot of data on the internet that a group of researchers from Europe was able to dig up and basically put together reconstructions of things that no longer existed just based on existing photography. So I felt like that's a really powerful, use case of crowdsourcing photos that all these people that contributed to this reconstruction really had no idea. They just thought they were taking interesting pictures. And so the thought is, what if you're actually intentionally scanning things? Like, then what can you do with that? And where can you put these things? And how can you experience them in VR? Visiting, a virtual museum, or bringing that statue and putting it in your virtual house, and mixing things up. So they don't necessarily have to be real, but they could be. And then you could put them together and do whatever you want with them in VR. And so this is, a downtown area of Wakefield. It's where that bandstand was. This is a photograph from the drone. And so I have a demo later tonight. It's super early alpha prototype, but we can basically walk around this in VR. You play with the new Oculus Touch controllers and move stuff around and, customize the environment. So yeah, Makefield's the name of the thing. That was kind of the dramatic reel for TED. And here's the kind of the core, I guess, inspiration for me, and why I think these three technologies kind of converge together to form this new thing that I'm calling Makefield. So you guys are probably all familiar with Google Earth, Wikipedia, and Minecraft. Google Earth also has a really cool VR demo, app actually now, and it's available in the Vive only, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully they'll have it in Oculus later, but it's a Vive experience you put on the headset, and it's basically what you'd imagine or what you'd hope. It's Google Earth in VR, where you can fly around everywhere. And it's really awesome. It's probably one of my favorite Vive apps. That's the city of Boston from a bird's eye view. And this is, I think, awesome. Like, Google's been taking all the satellite data and creating three-dimensional maps of our cities. However, the problem with it is that once you get down to a certain level, like, you can't actually land and walk around. It starts to become blocky, and you see that, oh yeah, these are satellite images taken from, super far away. So the resolution is, it's good for this angle, but when you're on the ground, it kind of breaks down. And then next, Wikipedia. So obviously Wikipedia is, the largest encyclopedia today. Back when it started in 2001, it was one of those things that people said, like, that'll never work. Like, no one's going to stop using real curated Encyclopedia Britannica, for example. And then over time, they kind of proved the people wrong, that yes, in fact, crowdsourcing does work. You can source and validate things that are accurate using human resources, and now we've got this amazing free resource. So Makefield kind of aims to be the 3D content repository of free to use scenery, environmental objects, and just a repository essentially for people to create 3D content and put it on. And then lastly, there's Minecraft, and I really like how Minecraft is a game that you're playing and designing from within a game. They have a VR version as well, but it doesn't have to be VR. The main concept is that you're in the game and you're creating the world. You're not using an editor. And Unity today just announced their VR, it's a beta, but you can do VR design from within Unity. And so I think this concept of designing from within a natural environment makes so much more sense than just sitting at the keyboard with a mouse and clicking things around, where you can physically grab something and manipulate it and scale it and change it. And so the idea is that this is going to be an environment, a social environment, where people can connect, pull things in, work on designs. Maybe you're designing a new building for the city and you want to show how that's going to look, or you're designing a community garden and you just want to show people the flowers. I think I have like a screenshot of that next. This is actually a screenshot from a Wayfair app that we developed. And it's in my backyard, so it's like kind of part of an extension of Makefield in some ways, where this is called Patio Playground. It's an experience on the Oculus store today. And some of the mechanics are kind of, inspired by this idea of being able to take virtual objects and move them around and change out how things look. And so after kind of building this out with my team, I thought this would be great to kind of continue, like, why stop, here in this small little area? Let's start scanning the entire space. And so this is, just an example of what if we added a community garden and some, stairs to where the gazebo is. And so when you're in VR, as a lot of like, you kind of have like the freedom to create whatever you want really fast. And so I think having a real world repository that you can tap into to load up a new location is a valuable resource and asset, and something that shouldn't just be controlled by Google, for example. It should be something that's like publicly available. And so there's all kinds of, I'm hoping you guys are just thinking of all the different ways to use this data, because the cool thing about making things publicly available is that you're not going to think of all the ideas yourself. Everybody's going to come up with their own unique use cases. I just have, two up here that I think are particularly interesting. One of is like historical recreations, where you can take like a downtown area and say like, what was it like downtown? This is North Station in Boston. What was it like before, everything was built up? And being able to kind of change time in history. And you can kind of do this in Google Earth. If they've got Street View images from a couple years ago, you can go back in time a little bit and see what, the store used to be that's closed. But the idea of this is you can go back any time, essentially. Like, you can go back to, ancient Greece and see the Colosseum as it was, or, see what your neighborhood looked like when your grandparents grew up or emigrated to the country. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for historians to kind of tap into the existing world as today and then change it and add a world as it was yesterday. And then, of course, in the future, we're going to have all kinds of autonomous vehicles and drone delivery and augmented reality that works on, scanning the world. And so these devices are not only collecting data and potentially contributing it back up to the main collective of Makefield, they can also pull data down to look for differences. So if you need a map and you want to know if there's supposed to be a telephone pole in the middle of the road because your sensor's picking it up, you can say, no, that's an anomaly, I want to report it. So I think having a large data set that AR, VR devices can kind of tap into will help localization and help solve some of these autonomous vehicle problems. So I think that's probably it for my slides. Yeah, I guess in closing, I wanted to get into a little bit more, detail here, and also take questions from the audience, which is another thing you can't quite do at TED. But I'm envisioning this as being something that's a long-term project, obviously. I do have a demo that people are welcome to come try out. And again, it's kind of an early alpha prototype, so it's probably a little bit buggy and not perfect, but I think it's still interesting. I've been, flying a drone around the town, and I've got about a square kilometer of space that's been captured, and then I kind of pulled that down for this demo into that main area where the gazebo is and stuff. But I think there's a lot of opportunity to, take advantage of these new technologies and existing, just cameras and phones that everybody has to kind of start collaborating, putting things together. And then on the Makefield website, the goal is to just start, discussions and get people talking and sharing different models and techniques, and eventually kind of grow that out. So that's all I'm going to say about this, and I'd rather, turn it over to you guys to ask any questions you may have. But, yeah.
The Wafer app, is that work in progress, or?
No, the Wafer app's on the store, and we actually have an update for Touch that's going to be coming out as soon as they review it. So Oculus just formally sent us a note and said, like, hey, we're happy that you guys are submitting updates, but we're probably not going to look at it till next year because everyone's on vacation. So we do have a new Touch-enabled version. There's even a cornhole
I've never
hidden
seen it.
in there.
I use the website, obviously, but
Yeah, so for the Rift, the Rift app is located on the Oculus. It used to be called Concepts. I forget what they called it now, but there's a subsection of the Oculus store that has it in there. It's called Patio Playground, but I think if you search for Wafer, it'll show up as well. And our 3D efforts extend also to Google Daydream. We have a Google Daydream app that you can use your new Daydream device if you have one. To have a VR experience, it's got an interactive controller like this. We can point at objects. That's more of an inspirational-based experience. You're docked on a catalog, and you can pull up products and look at them. And then we have a Google Tango app as well. I have a demo of that today if anyone wants to see it. We're projecting virtual furniture in your space. Yeah, I have a couple questions in the back. Why don't we start way back there, and we'll work our way up.
Yeah, that sounds good. Firstly, I'm very upset with you, mister.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hate to upset people.
This is all the stuff that I've sort of been thinking about for just in the last couple of weeks, and you've obviously arrived much more quicker than I have.
Well, the nice thing is it's a collaborative opportunity.
I get it.
So
The Wikipedia model and the input from autonomous vehicles and everything, it's all there. And I assume you're imagining basically a sort of fairly temporally accurate model of the world existing all the time.
Yeah, especially, sorry, I'll continue.
No, go ahead.
But yeah, I was going to say, like, I think today, like, when there's really starting from nothing, it's going to be whatever we can get. So it may not be up to the minute accurate, but in 10 years, let's say, when all cars are driverless and everybody's got an AR headset on and they're scanning the space, you could really start doing this real live, like, updates.
It'll take no time. I mean, once everyone's driving autonomous cars, there are enough drones that have LiDAR and stuff on them. You'll have the whole thing in no time. There's enough public LiDAR data that covers 90% of the population of the U.S. from NOAA and other government organizations. So that's depth, that's real depth data that goes towards mapping that stuff. But this is all sort of more general. More specific, I just wanted to ask you how you touched up, how you straightened up the models that are coming out of Photoscan.
Yeah, that's a great question. So they're always a little bit off. Yeah, exactly. Well, most of the time they are. So I guess there's kind of two answers to that. There's the Wayfair answer, which we're trying to develop a controlled environment, and with that, we're finding a lot of success. We add like cross-polarization film and cross-polarizers to the camera to reduce some of the reflection, and that's what ends up causing a lot of like the bumpiness, is the inconsistent light between photos. And so having a controlled environment makes a big difference, and then having like really high res and sharp in focus pictures makes a big difference as well. So on the Wayfair automated side of things, like when we have full control, we're able to get really good, consistent results. However, taking it to the skies and putting it on a drone, it's not quite nearly as accurate. And so at the moment, I've been actually just like hand modeling stuff on top, which I think is something that a lot of people do right now when they're doing photo scanning. And so I think that's going to get better over time, and we'll probably see more automated solutions that handle it and make it look better. But at the same time, too, that's another one of those like crowdsourcing opportunities. If you're providing like scan data and then people are interested in modeling, they can do that.
3 questions.
3 more questions. Okay, let's go ahead and work our way up. Yes?
So as someone who has zero experience with photogrammetry, doesn't know not to worry there.
Yeah, no worries.
How do you how do you get into it, and
Yeah.
from the basic, I don't have much camera equipment, how would I?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so I think the first place to start is with Autodesk. It's 123dcatch.com, and it's a free to use service. I think you put up to like 100 pictures or so. Basically just take out your cell phone, find something you want to scan, and take a bunch of pictures and then upload it and see what comes out of it. I think it's an interesting process because once you have a mind for what you need to do, it becomes more obvious what things are going to scan well and what things aren't. So things that are really shiny don't work well. Things that have glass or transparent usually don't work, or things with chrome. Stuff that like works really well are like rocks and natural things like trees and anything that's really like organic and has a unique pattern. So when you think about what the computer's trying to do, is it's trying to line up points of interest from 2 different photos. And so the more rich that data is and the more unique the pattern is, the better it does of doing it. So I'd say like try out 123dcatch, so like upload a bunch of stuff, see what comes out good and see what comes out bad. And then Autodesk has another level up called Remake that I think you have to pay for it, but you can do a lot more with it. And then Agisoft Photoscan is another one that we've been using.
Can I just say that the cheapest way to do this ever is to buy a Phantom Standard from Best Buy and take a bunch of pictures. We just geolocate it to millimeter, much better than phone, and then return it within 14 days.
We're keeping because it's so much fun.
No, that model works really well. I use a lot. Yeah.
Okay. It's okay.
If we go to e-commerce integrated into the VR app.
So not right now. So the way we're trying to work with the VR app is it's more like an inspirational based thing. So if you find something you like, we want to like save that back to like an idea board. So we're still trying to work on like how we can do like the whole like you're in VR and you want to check out and pay for stuff, but you don't want to log in and enter any like physical things without a keyboard.
The second part was with regard to IAP, because I know it's kind of fragmented right now.
Yeah. So essentially what we're doing is just redirecting users back to our main app or our main web experience. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah.
For Makefield, how do you see the Minecraft build it while you're in kind of model interacting with true and real LiDAR data that's being collected from multiple sources?
Yeah, so I think the LiDAR data that's like giving you like a base like foundation is great for like what I'm calling like landmarks. So you get like buildings and you get like things like even this bandstand is probably like a more permanent like fixture and landmark. And then you have all the kind of softer things that might be dynamic and aren't getting captured by LiDAR necessarily. Like that might be like traffic cones or trash barrels or things that might be static like a street light, or things that are smaller, chain like maybe a fence or a mailbox, like things that weren't necessarily picked up at the same resolution that the larger buildings are, and things that you could model and then load in. So the idea is that Makefield exists as like a 3D model repository, or connects to existing 3D model repositories where you can just load those products in and then start placing them in places that you want. But also pull in landmarks. So if you want to just have fun with it, you start with this real world location, but then you want to remap your neighborhood, turn into an amusement park. So maybe you grab some scanned stuff from Six Flags and you like put it down the street, and you add like an interactive like roller coaster experience, or you want to make a game and change it. Yeah, go ahead.
Isn't that kind of like having a Wikipedia article that says Ronald Reagan was a clown who portrayed a president on television? I mean, you're having fun.
Right. Yeah.
That's cool.
No, that's a good answer, or a good question. But the answer to that is that the master Wikipedia model is like, think of it like if you're familiar with Git, like the Git master repo. And your personal one is your own clone. It's like an individual, your own world that you can modify and share with other people and invite them to, but it's not the master thing. So the master one is the curated, like real life stuff, and then everybody can just play with their own like Minecraft version and do what they want with it. Yeah. Okay, I think we're out of time for questions, but I'm going to be around in the back of the red room.
Yep.
Is that what it's called?
So
Yeah.
there's going to be 2 hallways. He'll be the one on the right. And the rooms are labeled, and it just says one that says Red Lab on it.
All right, so find me in the Red Lab. And then lastly, one other thing that it's kind of in development, but I'm going to be starting a new chapter of the VR AR Association. So we're going to have Boston Chapter, and it's a professional organization for people that are interested in, discounts to events and networking and looking for talent. So that's to be announced officially, but I'm going to be doing that soon. So yeah, thanks everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. So next we have Jessica Tenadi. Yes? Jesslyn. I'm so sorry. I like threw it in my head like 10 times. I was like, make sure you say Jesslyn, and then Jessica comes out. So you guys know how that is. I'm really sorry, Jesslyn.
Cool.
So here you go.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jesslyn, and I had no idea that Mike was going to be talking about photogrammetry, so there might be a little how does this work? Okay, so about me, my name is Jesslyn. I'm currently an undergrad junior. I'm studying computer science and media arts and sciences. I'm currently involved in the Tangible Media Group at the MIT Media Lab, and over the summer this year, I was a VR software engineer and intern plus researcher at this company called Reality Reflection in Korea. So Reality Reflection is, like I said, in Korea. I was there for 2 months, and male to female ratio was awful in the sense that we had 6% of the team were women. We had 15-to-1 male to female ratio in the sense that this is a team and this is me. So it's good because I got my own employee lounge, which is not something that a lot of interns get, I think. And while I was there, some of the main projects that I worked on, I worked mostly as a researcher. I helped set up a light-safe stereophotogrammetry studio, and I worked a lot with photogrammetry optimization to work with like photorealistic rendering. I also worked very briefly to create demos for clients, and I contributed a little bit to a game. I just like disclaimer, some of the images in the slides are not my images. I signed an NDA and I'm trying my best not to get arrested, so yeah, bear with me. So let's play a game. I'm going to show you a series of photos and rendered images, and you basically just raise your hand if you think that this is a photograph. Go. So I lied. None of those are photos. Those are all rendered things, which you guys probably worked that out. So the problem with 3D modeling, or like I guess like creating assets, is that there's a huge barrier to entry. Usually, what a lot of people do is that they hire kind of like 3D modelers, but that's expensive and it's also time consuming. So something that I helped set up was a stereophotogrammetry studio. What photogrammetry is, which Mike already covered, is basically the art and science of retrieving information about 3D objects from photographs. And stereophotogrammetry is essentially to do with point matching with different, I guess, like camera angles. So one way to approach this is to get like your camera and like take photos from a lot of different angles. Another thing you can do is set up a 150 camera light stage studio, which is that thing. But we're like, wait, that seems really cluttered and messy. What if we make it more structured? And then we were like, wait, it'll be like really tedious if we have to like click every single one. What if we add wires so everything can, I guess, like capture at the same time? And like, as soon as it captures, it can like bring data directly to the computers. So yeah, that's basically the light stage studio at Reality Reflection that I helped build. This is something that Mike talked about as well. It basically takes a lot of photos from different angles and it helps reconstruct what's in the middle of it. So effective photogrammetry, bad things to capture are things like fur and grass, and just like shiny things in general. Good things are anything with a lot of textures. There's a lot of, lighting also plays like a huge factor into what's going on. It's really bad if something is like overexposed or underexposed, and it's really good if we have like overcast lighting. So Mike was talking about using like polarizing film or yeah, stuff like that. So I got interested in human subjects, and one of the reasons why I'm interested in it is because if you think about like green screen, imagine you filmed like an actor in the middle of a desert and you want to try and green screen it so that he's in a church with stained glass windows. That's going to be really difficult. There's just way too much light, and even though like it can be done, it's never perfect. So what if we could create like 3D models of people and then essentially place it in any kind of lighting condition? So what I wanted to get was something like this, in the sense that you get one model, you can place in different lighting conditions, and it'll turn out well. So in addition to creating like still models, I was like, what if we could do like 3+1D, which is basically like 3D models that move, so kind of like videos. So we had that photogrammetry studio, and I wanted to work with people, but we needed like someone really small to kind of like sit in the middle. So we were like, who could we use? And I was like, wait, my CEO has a baby. This is my CEO. His daughter was born last week, which is cute. But we used his son, Yesung, because he was the right size. So if someone in there could play the video. This is, yeah, that person. Oh, no, go back. Yeah, if you just like, that's like a video. Click on it. Oh my God. No. Wait.
Is that it?
No. Oh, it's a it's a YouTube embedded. All right, it might not work. I can show you guys later, but essentially we got this baby, and he basically moves, and you can view it from a lot of different angles. So this is like recognizably a baby, but the thing is that it looks really plastic and kind of fake. So that's where I got interested in shader data. Basically, shader data concerns itself with things like 3D meshes, so like the actual physical model of it, texture data, specular data, which is to do with the light, and subsurface scattering. In terms of like shader physics, if you think about like what properties make up a surface in terms of like, let's say like dull and shiny, a lot of it is to do with how it reflects light. So shiny things reflect a lot of light, and dull things don't reflect as much light. So by playing around with parameters, you could essentially mimic like different kind of surface properties. So if you just take the photogrammetry model, what you get is the image on the right, and by playing around with the parameters, you can get something that looks more realistic, like the thing on the right. So back to humans, a challenge with human is that obviously like hair is an issue. Point matching is also a big issue. Shadows, light, occlusion, hair, skin data. What I really wanted to make was something that looked a little bit like this, so something as realistic as this. But there's a lot of problems in the sense that skin has a property of appearing rough and smooth at the same time, and that's like a really difficult balance to find. We also have like blood vessels, so if you look at that nose, you can see kind of like red light, I guess, going through. If you just like made a 3D model and pretended that light doesn't go through it, you wouldn't be able to get that effect, so we have to like play around with a lot of things like that. So why is this important? I'm going to show you some images, and we're going to turn the rendering on and off. So this is on. And it becomes even more obvious the closer you get to the face. And the thing about VR is that you can't really control like what people do in it. They can essentially put their head anywhere. So it's really important that we make it as realistic as possible. So nothing is perfect, and in fact, like something that's too perfect actually looks unrealistic and looks fake, or what we call like falling into uncanny valley. So now I'm gonna like take apart some of the factors that help you make photorealistic humans. So in terms of skin, there's a lot of like lighting conditions that need, I guess like if you put like a human in the middle of a scene, there's a lot of lighting conditions that you need to think about in the sense of there's global illumination, which is where light like bounces off certain parts of your face. You also get specular data because skin is oily and not like that plasticky texture that you saw in a baby. You also get a lot of like subsurface scattering, like the red light from like the nose picture just now. So basically, you could get something like this and turn it into something a little more realistic like this. The difference is really like difficult to see, like if you didn't see it before and after, but it makes a difference. Another issue is that with photogrammetry or stereophotogrammetry, you would take images, but it was like a very general model in the sense that it couldn't capture things as small as like skin pores. So something like skin pores was something that we had to model by ourselves. We used sign-based tile procedural bump, and basically what you get is kind of just so this is kind of like the equation that's like used to create that, and you just like layer it on top of each other to create pores. Another really complicated thing about pores is that like even though they just look like holes here, what they actually are like actual holes. And when you look at people's pores, one eye could like go inside and one eye could like see a slightly different angle, and that was like another challenge that we had to think about. In terms of subsurface scattering, the best kind of model that you could use is what we call the 8D like BRDF model, which is one kind of light goes in, and it's more similar to how light actually like goes into your skin, because like if light goes off your skin, some of it bounces off immediately, and some of it actually goes in and comes out a little. But that was very expensive computationally, so we decided to go with a simpler model, even though it's like not as realistic. So trade-off was like another thing that we had to think about a lot, especially in VR, where things are running real time. So that ended up with something like this. You get a lot of different, this is in Unreal, we got a lot of different parameters. We essentially like move things and like attach things together, and we are able to create realistic humans like that. General difficulties, it's easy to find a solution for a single lighting configuration. You can kind of like put it under a single setting and play around with parameters to see what looks best, but it's kind of difficult to work out a setting that works for like all lighting conditions. There's also the issue of like a single light source versus multiple light sources, in the sense that if there's only one light bulb above me, it's easy for the computer to work out like how the light will bounce off my skin. But if we had like different lights in different directions and like flashing colors and like light sources that were moving, that would be a lot more expensive computationally. So there are like memory and performance issues. Yeah. So the pros of my time with the company, it was a really fortunate timing because I actually joined them as they were moving offices. So I got to play a part in setting up that studio, which is not something that I think a lot of people have done before, setting up a 150 camera light stage studio. I was able to work with hardware that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to use, and I was also the only intern, the only woman, and the only non-Korean speaker on the team, which was really great. But it also gave me extra benefits because they gave me naming rights for the office, so it's now called the Mission Control Center, which I think is really fun. Best things about like my experience, I guess, was definitely, was the people. Worst thing about it was that like every time I wanted to test something, I'd have to like try it on, and then it would ruin my hair, and there was no one in the company who could like relate to this experience, and it was awful. Kind of to finish up, I'm going to be demoing Music Inside in the demo room. Music Inside is a VR rhythm game. It made #1 top. It was developed by Reality Reflection, and it was #1 top seller in Steam VR on opening week. It was also one of the 53 games chosen on the Oculus Touch launch lineup, which means that it was it was like one of the games that like came out when like the Oculus Touch hardware came out. So yeah, could you click on that link, person in there, Ben? Yeah.
Might be able to click on it too.
I don't know how to do that. Yeah, so this is this work. If you could make it full screen. So this is me, and that's it. And you can like turn it around, yeah, and get a lot of So I have at the time we this was like really clutch, so I didn't actually set up like the cameras above, which is why my hair looks white there, because there wasn't enough data off the top of my head. But yeah, if you could go back to. Yeah. So feel free to contact me. My name is Jessalyn, not Jessica. I spelled it up there. And that's my email address, and I'll be demoing over there. So come by and say hi. Thank you.
So the demo room she was referring to, again, like there's a hallway split at the end. It'll be the one on the left side. That's where actually most of our demos are, but there's also one where Mike Fest will be demoing is going to be on the right side. So basically there's a fork. There's demos over here and demos over here. Mike Fest is going to be over here, and Jessalyn is going to be over here. So next speaker is a 6th grader who's been working on a VR project. Her name is Natalie, and her mother Anush.
Yep.
Yes.
My name is Natalie, and I go to 6th grade at Pierce School. You can't really see it, but I go to Pierce School. And I'm here to talk to you guys about me building a VR project with Unity and having it on Google Cardboard.
Well done.
My first image of Google Cardboard was seeing it at my mom's friend's house. We went there and she showed us her Google Cardboard she got from the New York Times, and she showed us a 3D image of the night sky, and it was really cool to look around, and it sort of mesmerized me at first. So one of my favorite YouTubers, she started a YouTube series. It's called Dreams of Astora, and she pretended to be a character that went into a VR game called Dreams of Astora, and and she played in Minecraft, so it was sort of cool to see how those things tied up, since they were relatively in the same amount of time. Usually around Thanksgiving or winter break, my mom and I come together and we make a project. It usually has something to do with robots. And this is me when I was 8, and we just finished a Rubik's Cube solving robot. So if you can just yeah.
Now it's solving, or actually trying to solve the Rubik's Cube.
This year we tried to do something different, and we decided to do a VR project with Google Cardboard, and we created the game with Unity. This is the YouTube video, but it's really long, so no, don't play it. It's really long. I see that now. Yeah, my mom found it, and it was the thing that we used to make our game. First, in Unity, you need to create a skybox to create the 3D image around your game. And this specific game was a maze. So, yeah, that's our maze. And you can create blocks, and you can texture them with images from the internet, and you can use a capsule collider to help your character move around, and it just helps you navigate around the maze. To actually move, you need to write a code in C#, and to move forward, you just look forward. And to stop moving, you look down. Then you just export the game onto your phone and just insert it into your Google Cardboard and play. I found it interesting how you can have something on a phone that's usually projects a flat image, and you can have it with a 3D image with Google Cardboard and its lenses and how it is on the phone. Thank you.
So if you want to learn anything about how to build on Unity, you definitely want to talk to Natalie.
And we will be in the demo room on the right.
Yeah, so they'll be demoing their Google Cardboard app that they just showed. So the other one, not this slide, the other one should be, so the next up is our lightning talk with Ilium VR. So they're actually working on a VR gun, and I'm going to go help in.
Hi everybody, my name is Sebastian Sarbora. I'm CEO of BostonVR, and I just wanted to kind of talk to you guys about what we're working on right now. At BostonVR, our general goal is to create really immersive physical hardware for virtual reality. Our first step in that is to make rifle controllers for shooter games. It's a very good opportunity to there's a lot of shooter games. You can really make one controller or two controllers and satisfy most of the experiences on shooter games. So it's a really good start to create immersive physical experiences. So I guess kind of some more background. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the touch controllers, the Vive controllers, and they're reasonably good. They track really well. They're good for a lot of integrations or interactions with the virtual world. But there's an aspect that's missing. There's a physical immersion that you don't really have for a lot of experiences. So we want to make controllers that are just like the objects that you would touch in the game. They function just like the things that you would use. And a gun controller is a really good aspect. First implementation of that. So I'm pretty well known for putting really crappy GIFs in my slides. But this is a Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. It's a Vive game based around the idea of making really realistic and immersive interactions with guns. So, but the problem here is that, let's see if I can restart this. Maybe. He's kind of fumbling around. You see the controllers in here. It's a very, very weird, clunky experience. It's difficult for him to actually get the reload process done. Whereas if you had an actual physical controller, that wouldn't be really difficult at all. You just do it how you would in real life. One of the big things that we talk about, kind of part of our company culture is killing the gesture. So in a regular video game, you press a button and you punch a bad guy or whatever. But in virtual reality, you just punch the bad guy. There's no gesture. There's no there's no in between. There's no middleman. You just do the action. And with controllers like this, like the Vive and the Touch, they don't really. They still have a little layer of separation there. And so creating some good gun controllers are really important. This is kind of what it should look like if you were to have a really immersive gun controller. This is a very old prototype. This is apparently a very slow GIF. But you can see that aim around with physical gun, hold it exactly the way that you really would. It gives you a sturdy balance. It's got recoil. To reload, you actually touch the magazine, pull the slide back. These are really important aspects to have more immersive experience. Being able to actually reload in a real way is much better than that clumsy experience that you saw in the other GIF. So this is kind of a closer look at that developer kit. We've been working at this almost 3 years now. The past year has been pretty exciting. We've been working on, we launched 2 versions of our developer kit. First one in February, next one in August, and they were kind of a way to get these out to game studios, see what they like about them, see what they don't like about them, and iterate very quickly and create new hardware. So some features in this second one here that were different. We added, make sure it's wireless. A lot of people didn't like fumbling around with the cables and getting tangled and stuff like that. We added what we call drop magazine, where if you, instead of tapping the magazine on the bottom, it actually falls out a little bit and goes back in. You pull the chamber back, and very realistic and immersive experience. And another big portion of this is we had to make sure that the technology was all there. So in our first developer kit, we supported the Oculus and the Vive when the Vive came out, and we made our own technology for tracking and things like that. And it didn't really work that well. So when the Vive came out, we saw that having really good immersive positional tracking is super important, because if what's 90% of what you do with a gun? You aim it, right? You have to point it in a direction. Actually, it has to be pretty realistic to what you actually do. So that's why we added a Vive controller on the end of it to actually track it. And we went through a lot of ergonomic design things with this. You can see the little swoop here of the stock is important, because when you go and aim into the controller and iron sights, if you don't have that little swoop there, the stock will actually hit your Vive headset, and you can't actually aim it, and it's a really jarring experience actually. A lot of little things like these right here. These are little joysticks, button modules, and we want to make sure that they're ambidextrous. It's kind of a funny story. Me and my 2 co-founders are all left-handed, so the world's not built for us. we made our first few prototypes. We showed them out to some demo days, some events kind of like this, and everyone was kind of looking at it like, why is everything backwards? Why is it all wrong? 90% of people said that. The other 10% were on the right side of history. But so little aspects like that. These are actually removable and they switch on both sides. A lot of those design choices we took into account, took the developer feedback, and kind of came up with a new design. This is our new product that we call Athena. So you can see it's kind of reminiscent to the old design. It's got more of a sci-fi type feel to it. The old one was actually literally pretty much an actual old style gun, a Tommy gun, used in World War II in Korea. This one is kind of more based in sci-fi, fictional fantasy sort of thing. It's got all similar features. You've got the buttons, you've got the trigger, the reloading slide, and it's got some extra stuff like recoil is really important. You want to make sure that when you pull the trigger and you get this force back, it's relatively realistic force, and it'll affect the way that you shoot, but it also provide a much more immersive experience. You see this in like arcade games where Time Crisis or whatever, you feel the slide go back. It's really compelling experience. This is another view of it. And so the other aspect that I talked about earlier is the tracking, making sure that it really reliably tracks in 3D space. And so our previous one, we just mounted a Vive controller on it, but that's not really good enough for a full consumer product. So we're part of the Steam licensing program, Steam VR licensing program. All that technology is going to be built into Athena. So we've got a little GIF here. Yeah, so you see all these sensors that are generally on the Vive controller usually. Also a very slow GIF. They move, they're all tracked in the same way around the surface of Athena. This is super important for most of the reasons I described earlier. If you don't really have that technology, it's not going to work well. The other thing is that being on the Steam VR platform, all of our software works immediately. So if you have any game that's been made for the Vive, anything that works on the Steam VR platform, the gun will automatically work for it no matter what. And you can add a little bit of software at the developer's discretion to incorporate some of the extra features. So the big part of Athena is that we just launched it on Indiegogo. So if you were to want to get your hands on Athena, you could support the campaign at a level that you would get the controller, and also it's bundled with 2 games: Arizona Sunshine, which is a really good zombie shooter, and The Nest, which is a dystopian future robot sniper game. It's pretty awesome. And even if you don't have a Vive, you don't have you're not necessarily interested in this. I think one of the important aspects here is that we're actually the only announced third-party hardware for Steam VR. We're the only one licensing the technology that's announced a product. And so I think we're kind of trailblazing here with being the first peripheral that can do this, and it's going to put really a big indicator to the market as to the success of these items. So if you're interested in just backing that concept in general, donate enough to get a T-shirt, that sort of thing. Nicer than the one I have on now. And that's it. So there's a link here if anyone wants to check it out. That's really all I got. Questions?
I'm guessing if you're using Steam that you're using OpenVR?
So we haven't actually moved completely over to OpenVR. The software opportunity is definitely there. The software integration that Valve provides with the Lighthouse technology and Steam VR and everything, actually, you don't really need to. We don't even really need to make that much software. We make some plugins for Unreal, Unity, a couple other game engines that allow game developers to very, very quickly get up and running. I think one of our game developers for our second dev kit had it was like 6 minutes or something. It was a crazy record time. That's not usually what it would be, somewhere on the order of like an hour. But so you can add those and all those extra features and get really interesting recoil and other fun stuff. But in general, the software burden is very low.
So Steam just thinks it's a Vive controller?
Pretty much, yeah. There's some interesting stuff about Steam that the controller reports about it, particularly the model. So your Steam controller that you generally have, it actually tells Steam VR what it looks like. And so you can do the same thing with this, and you can actually make that look like a hammer, or make it or a gun controller or whatever. So that's one of the aspects. We just put the actual model in there.
What do you think about replicated maybe vibration or recoil? Would that be possible?
Yeah. So in our earlier dev kits I showed, and also just so you guys know, we do have a demo in the demo room back there that you guys can all try out. Definitely suggest it, but I'm a little biased. Yeah, so recoil is an interesting thing. The dev kit that we had just had a little vibration motor in it. It gets kind of the point across, but it's not really super immersive. It was meant to be a low cost, very quick turnaround solution. One of the things we're moving towards is a solenoid actuator, which is this big piece of metal and a magnet just shoots back and forth. It's what you'd find in like an arcade. The issue with that technology lies, we spend a lot of engineering time figuring out how to make it efficient for the battery, because you want to be wireless, you want to not drain your battery in an hour or something, you want to have a decent amount of gameplay. So there's a balance between how much force you get back and how long your controller lasts. That being said, there's a lot of software that people in general are working on, but also we've worked on, that allows you to kind of create profiles of recoil. So you can say, oh, this gun is a laser gun, and it will give you a small vibration and recoil really fast, or different types of various rifles, chainsaw, gun type of thing. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with it. Thank you.
Awesome. So thanks. So I'm going to kind of fly through these announcements so we can go ahead and get the demo started. So we have an early stop time tonight at 9. So I just want to give you plenty of time. So we are more than just a meetup. We're a 501c nonprofit, and we're dedicated to making the VR technology available, but we also want to make it easily accessible to be educated. So that's part of why we bring people in to do these talks, so you can learn about VR as well as get to try it out if you can't afford it. And we're also a resource that if you're trying to do anything, there's plenty of people in this network and in this meetup group that are more than willing to help people get it up and get started. So after this, if you want to come and get drinks with us, we'll be at Matt Murphy's. And then the next meetup is on Thursday of next week, on December 22nd, Charity Everett has a Learn VR meetup. So it's like Learn with Us VR, Learn VR with us if you go on Meetup. So they actually, I think they're going through some Symmetry tutorials right now. And she actually also has demos of that here if you want to try it out to see what you'd be working with when you go to that. And then the next Boston VR meetup is going to be on January 25th at the Booz Allen office on Milk Street. So if you were at Ray's Labs for the 26th, okay. So 26 at Booz Allen, which is on Milk Street. So it's downtown Boston. So that's all I'm going to go through since I really want to get demos started. So thank you for coming out. And if you have any questions, you can talk to me if you would like to know how to be a volunteer or how you can help out. Please contact me. And the last thing is that we do have t-shirts on sale for $15 each. And this, again, it's a tax write-off because we are a 501c nonprofit. So thank you.